Okay, fine. How are you all? Hope things are going good. Your side? Yeah, we have 7 participants here. So hoping to wait for 1 more minute so till the others also join. So we have Sainti here, Anushri here. I like playing piano. Wow, that's great. Fine. I too love to hear piano being played. Yeah, Farah Khan is here, Braj Kishore, Kamal, Hardik, Reena. Good evening, all of you, those who are here. Okay. Suprita has signed in. Who else? Yes. Yeah, Kavita has come. Fine. So, few of you here, hoping others too to join. So, by then, we'll just start with today's session. Fine. Alok also has joined. Yes. Once again, good evening for those who have joined just now. Yes, Tanvi, welcome. Good evening. Fine. So last session in this subject, we were talking about the forecasting, demand planning, and supply planning. And we had methods of forecasting, the qualitative, quantitative, and all that. And in end of the day, I could understand that we were talking more on the quantitative aspects and how it has been applied in the industry parlance. So with that, and we earlier we started with the supply chain introduction and how predominantly the world requires a proper and agile supply chain to happen. Most predominantly, which has been approached by all the players in the world, that too, especially after the pandemic. So earlier too, when this was started, when we saw about the evolution of logistics and supply chain in our first session, so we could understand, and it was a Greek and Latin for players in the field. So when we talked about logistics, people used to think that was a driver's job. So it took all these years to break that myth itself with the understanding and the refinement that field has given to the world. So now people have started to understand the importance, the predominance of this logistics and supply chain, and how it is connected with the delivery of the end product in the hands of the customer. So thanks to the technology as well, because it has given great support. And with the advent and e-commerce players flooding the market, flocking the market like anything, so each and every person, consumer, has understood the importance of logistics and supply chain. So we were talking about that in the first session, and after that we moved on to the demand forecasting and planning. How organizations does this? Ultimately, the end customer shouldn't be disappointed. We also saw about a kid who was not able to get his dress, whatever he wanted, a Spider-Man's attire, so that was due to lack of planning, forecasting technique, which has made ultimately the customer disappointed. Fine. So after that, in today's session, we are going much more into understanding the entire strategies that are involved in supply chain. So we have make, of course, we make the before that again. So first we understand. See, you, me, anybody else can do a business, can plunge into business and start a business as well. So before that, see, if at all, if I'm basically I'm a diploma holder in tailoring. So that was long back, some 20, 25 years back. So I stitch my own dresses, but that's different. So even my sons used to ask me, so if you're so fond of doing stitching and all that, so why don't you start your own garments or textiles? So it is not restricted to stitching my clothes alone. So it is way much more beyond that. But still, so affinity and liking towards that sector or particular function, so may take you more into such kind or line of business. So imagine that I wanted to start a business in tailoring or textiles, something related to that. Yes, I can do that, but I need to understand or plan something. So what am I going to do, whether I'm going to do a micro level business or a macro level business? So who are going to be my takers, who are going to be my customers, what is going to be the coverage, and what is going to be the type of the industry, size of the industry, because a lot of investment has to go into that. So if it is just a tailor shop, I'm going to open deploying one or two tailors. So not much of investment goes inside. But if I'm planning on a macro level, yes, a lot of thought process has to go. And before that, I need to understand what is going to be the demand for this. So I need to plan a lot of activities in that. So then I go into that. So my investment is fine, and I have made up my mind there is a lot of takers and demand in this particular sector, and I'm investing into that. I have started to make my garments also, stitch my clothes or make the process. And not with that, to make something, I also need to procure something, source something. It may be a sewing machine, or it may be a fabric, it may be a designer accessories, whatever it is. Many things, many raw materials which needs to put into the process of manufacturing and ultimately will be rolled out as a finished product or good. So that has to be planned, understood, and has to be executed during the making phase of mine. So I need to source a lot of things from others in this business, not only in this business, for any business for that matter. So here I'm sourcing materials, raw materials from the suppliers, and I'm making the process, and finally I'm delivering it to the customer. Again, delivery, lot of patterns are there. How am I delivering? Whether I'm having a point of sale, inviting or attracting customers to come have a footfall in my shop and take the products what they wanted, or like the new age business goes, everything and anything at the touch of the button you can do sitting at your home. So how convenient I'm going to make this design work out for the customers? Am I going to deliver this to the customers, or sitting at one place that is my shop? Am I going to invite my customers to my shop? So multiple things I need to plan once I have started doing this business and started to I have started producing the garments, and then finally I'm into the delivering part of the product to the customer. So many things goes inside that, and this is not same as far as all the industries are concerned. This is invariably going to differ from industry to industry and from sector to sector. So some a decade back, maybe a 10, 15 years ago, going to a restaurant when we were in college and all that, that was way before that. Going to a restaurant was a plan. So we used to plan for the entire week or the month. So my birthday is fast approaching, my any other function is fast approaching. We used to plan for that months together before to even go to a restaurant. But we never thought that the restaurant will come to your house. So that's the level of technological advancement that is happening in each and every field. And one has to plan accordingly. The business models too is designed accordingly, keeping all this change in customer preferences, the style, everything in mind. So, with this notion, I would like to take you all to today's session. And today's session, you will have a lot of uh, scenarios put in forth and exercise. There is an activity where you all will be participating. So, I'm looking forward for an active participation from your side. And also, one more thing is these PowerPoint slides for these sessions, what I'm handling are being shared to you before, and hope all of you have gone through the asynchronous modules also. Yes. Have you all gone through the asynchronous sessions or modules? The content? Yeah, somebody just typed something. What is that? Yeah, tell us about the exam pattern. There's a lot of content on the upgrade portal and seems a lot of terminologies to memorize. It's ton of content. Okay, don't worry, Braj. So I'm calling you by short name because only that is visible. So pardon me for that. Uh, yeah, yeah. I will tell. Actually, it was a request from your executive team side also to share about the term and examination pattern. So, since I have planned that for tomorrow's session, a slide I have included in tomorrow's session also. So, one thing, just I'm just briefing it verbally today. Tomorrow, I will share you all the details in the slide itself, and which you can store. Term and examination. See, we are discussing on a lot of concepts here, and most probably, yeah, by far has most of theory. Don't worry, Raj. No, don't worry. So I'm just trying to put forth the blend of theory and the practice here. That is the reason why. See, otherwise, the questions what you're going to be attempting in your term and examination is all going to be application based. Yes, like terms you can use whatever I'm saying here, whether it is a lead time or the make, source, deliver and buy, or the functions of supply chain, whatever it is. So those jargons or terminologies you can use, but then it is the application based questions you are going to get. So maybe a scenario will be given to for you to suggest on how the forecasting a scenario will be given, and how, if you are a supply chain manager in that juncture, how you are going to forecast the demand for that product. So again, don't worry, you need not to apply any theory on that. No calculations will be given, but you have to presume all the scenarios that you are dealing that in the real time issues, and you are going to give the solutions and suggestions for that. Okay. So don't worry at all. It is not going to be the theory like definition, direct questions, what is lead time, what is supply chain sourcing. No questions of that sort are going to be asked to you. So don't worry at all. I can share a few sample questions also tomorrow. So since at present I'm not prepared for that, because I will give you a scenarios and few sample questions tomorrow, so that it will clear all your doubts, and please, it will get you out of the fear also. So we can understand even the PG students, those who are fresher, are reluctant to take up direct questions and definitions. So we can understand being working professionals. So whatever you are experiencing, so all these things put together will be the question paper. So don't worry about that. Uh, Please cover this today. Okay. I will try, because scenario model questions I need to sit and prepare and show it. I will try my best towards the end. Otherwise, you please tolerate for one more day, because as such in tomorrow's session I have included that. Only thing is the sample demo questions I will show you tomorrow. Yeah, Brett? Uh, Fine. So, yes, my question to all of you was, have you all gone through the asynchronous module? Yes, I'll do that, Brett. Again, one more thing I'm insisting is, this live session coverage is predominantly scattered throughout the module coverage. That is, all the modules which have been covered in your asynchronous session, will this live session will be imbibing that, and most probably whichever is covered in the live session will be asked in the examination, in your term and examination. The concepts and the application part of it. So don't worry on that. You can just once again listen to the recording, or else if you are here present in the live session, no issues on that. You can handle very well. I'm sure of that. Yes. Okay. So with this notion, I'm just taking you all to the session today. I'm sharing my screen on the live session 3. So is my screen visible to all of you? Yeah. So I'm looking forward for a lot of participation from your side today. Okay. We'll be discussing more on the sourcing and the manufacturing function in today's session. Okay, this is the live session travel of ours. So shortly, we are in the fourth session. To name session wise, if, including the simulation briefing session. Otherwise, normally we are in session 3 of lecturing. So this is what will be covered today. Okay. So, just a initiation on the supply chain overview, so which will be connected to the topics what we are going to handle in the upcoming slides. So we were seeing about the supply chain overview, wherein we had the manufacturing plant on the one side, and we had the distributor who's connecting us, connecting the finished product to the stores, and sometimes directly from the distributor it goes to the stores like car showrooms. So it comes to the dealer and directly it is a point of sale where you walk in and you buy the cars, and at times products like FMCG. So it goes to the retailer, one more middleman there, intermediary there in the supply chain, and then it comes to the customer. So there are different styles of supply chain functioning. That is the channel partners involved. So we have different levels of channel partners and the distributors involved as per the product that is dealt with. So again, that was in the traditional way of the supply chain functioning and the linking with the different players. So when e-commerce came into business, so it was more of a manufacturing plant on the one side, and we had the e-commerce company in between, and directly they were connected to the customers with the products what they wanted to buy. So it may be Amazon or maybe Snapdeal or maybe Flipkart. So what they do is they directly procure from the manufacturer. So no make is there. Okay. So e-commerce companies, they are not making anything. So the functions what we are going to discuss today will be evolving on planning, making, sourcing, delivering, and all that. Other functions will be a part of this e-commerce supply chain. But when we talk about making, so because no product is exactly manufactured fully by these e-commerce companies. So directly they are a connecting link between a manufacturer and the customer. Fine. Till the e-commerce company came into existence, it was the traditional supply chain and the channel partners which were involved in delivering or taking the products from the manufacturer to the stores. And even stores are totally removed or eradicated from the entire supply chain process, wherein from the e-commerce company was acting as a warehouse as well as a store as well as a distribution center as well as a fulfillment center, you can call anything. So directly from the manufacturer, if the customer was connected by the e-commerce company, so you name them any, he can be he has replaced the retailer, he has replaced the wholesaler, and he is acting as a connecting point. There is a distributor who is procuring from the manufacturer. Manufacturers may be plenty, like you can also call them as sellers. There are many sellers that are connected to the distribution hub of these e-commerce company and who will be directly connecting to the customers. Okay, so that is what I wanted to convey here. So in the traditional supply chain link that we were discussing all this time, so we had sourcing from sourcing of raw materials from the suppliers, and we make it and then we move it through the transportation, that is the logistics leg of it. We also have warehouses which were stored, and then finally it goes to the selling point, that is the retail point where the customer is directly connected with. So they are the series of activities uh, performed by each and every organization. And ultimately, what is the intention of this series of activities is to deliver some value so that the customer sees value in the product they buy and they come for repeated purchases. And yes, of course, once you wanted to deliver products or services of value, So you need to focus on each and every activity of your supply chain, whether it is material procurement and management in the manufacturing like make, you source raw materials. Yes, the supplier is involved, and the procurement part comes here. You choose the suppliers, from whom are you going to buy, because there will be plenty of suppliers, and there are different processes of choosing these suppliers. Like, see, if it is a public sector, so they have a very formal streamlined process, like floating the tender, requesting for proposals, we say it as RFP, and requesting for quotations, we call it as RFQ, and request for information. So everything will be done in a step by step manner, so which we will be focusing on the sourcing part. So once we move on to the making part, so we'll be more focused towards how are we going to procure, what is that I'm going to procure, what is the size of raw materials I'm going to procure, whether I need 20 units or 30 units or 40 units. That is the economic order quantity, which I'll be covering tomorrow's session, not today. So because, and what is the frequency of my order? More number of orders, I'm going to end up more in logistics cost. Less number of order, so I will have to compromise with my inventory, and sometimes I will have to end up in stock out cost. Because you go back to the, hope you all did your simulation as well. How many of you have done your first run of simulation at least? Have you all done with your started with your simulation? Yeah, done once. That sounds very better, very great. Shankar and Snehal. Yes, please do it once, so you will get a lot of ideas and inputs. So there, if you see, there will be instances where you will have stock out, and there will be instances where you will have more inventory as well. And the moment you experience or come to a juncture where it has zero inventory, the cell text will pop up and give you scenarios, change in scenarios and all that. So this is where you have to plan very carefully on how much to procure, how to procure, what to procure, when to procure during the making phase. So once that is done, how am I going to move this product from me to my dealer or any other intermediary involved? The first mile and the last mile connectivity. So if you remember in the e-commerce case, we were discussing about the last mile connectivity, and the more proportion of the logistics cost goes towards the last mile connectivity, especially in e-commerce sector. Because other in additional tradition in other traditional supply chain, it is, you have a point of sale and the customer is invited or walk-ins to the point of sale. But in e-commerce supply chain, the first mile and the last mile matters a lot, which consumes more cost as well. So close to 40 to 50 rupees you incur for one delivery of shipment. So imagine how much planning has to go there. You also have to calculate about the returns percentage, whether it is the drop or the returns, whatever it is. The amount what you incur for per delivery cost is going to be the same. So all those things has to be planned very accurately to minimize the errors for and maximize the efficiency. Most probably, see the specification what they give. So mostly in e-commerce sector, where do we get the returns? Maybe in size, maybe the quality of the product or the color of the garment. What we see online in image, virtual image is completely different from that. See, mostly if organizations are focusing on those areas for improvement, efficiency and improvement, so that is going to minimize their returns, reverse logistics percentage to a greater extent. So then they have to plan for storing, the transportation, warehousing, all these things happens in the moving leg. And finally, it is being sold to the customers. Selling, just like that, I'm not able to sell because we are not in the period of mass production. We are in the period of customized production and selling those products. So in customization, the returns is even more difficult to handle because you might have customized the product as per the requirement of the customer. So if the customer still is not happy with what uh, value added features you have done for him, again, nobody else would like or would prefer that customization of that customer. So it is more challenging for a customized product to get a returns, and because you reselling that product becomes very difficult. So that's why this Flipkart, Amazon, so any AGO, whatever it is, what they do, especially Flipkart. So I just read through an article, so where they were saying all these returns were taken, but not taken to the warehouse back, but they are having resellers to whom it will be sold at a discounted rate, and it will be sold by the reseller again. So sometimes a normal local seller will be there, and he will be selling the same product what you get in this online stores for a lesser rate. So this is the reason, because anything that comes as a return is not again taken to the warehouse or the distribution center of these e-commerce players, because again from last mail it is going back to the first mail delivery. So a lot of formalities in between. So to avoid all those things again, so they send it to the they sell it to the resellers who buy all these garments or returned pieces in discounted rate, at which they are putting into sales from their point of sale. Okay, and this is relevant for both manufacturing and the service organization. It is not only for the manufacturers, those who produce some product. Same is applicable even for pharma, hospitality, hotel industries. So how this link and supply chain is happening in hotel industry? Yes, of course, we go to the restaurant, we eat something. Imagine during the pandemic period. So on and off, we used to get instructions from the government saying that no, restaurants are closed. Okay, restaurants are open only in this time window. Restaurants are open in this time window, but without AC, they have to operate, and restaurants are open in this time window without AC, but only 50% of the seating capacity has to be fulfilled. So a lot of things goes into that. And imagine what could be the level of planning for the service sector, a hotel industry, in a normal period compared to a pandemic period. Okay, so this sourcing, making, moving, selling, all these activities are equivalent right from a manufacturing organization to a service organization as well. And the two, in service organization, to some extent you can minimize the loss, because it is on entry of the customers the service will be generated. But this is not exactly applicable to the hotel industry, because there at least some dishes you need to prepare earlier and keep it ready. But this may be applicable as far as a spa is concerned, because there only when a customer enters the spa or a salon, the services starts. Okay, so but the processes, the supply chain process, the connectivity, the planning activity, the moving activity, these are common whether it is for a manufacturing sector or for a service sector. Okay, so is it clear? So anything you would like to add here? Okay. Going forward, I may be asking more questions to you. Fine. Okay. I'm going to play a video for you, and I will be asking a quiz on that, so that all of you will be participating now. Today I have not planned any Mentimeter quiz, so instead I'm going to show this to you. Okay. Uh, is it visible for you? No. Okay. One second. I will stop share my screen and then I will share the screen again. Okay. Is it now visible? Yeah, but then I will have a problem on the audio once again. Now just tell me,
Hungry?
are you
With
able
ID
to
Vada batter.
hear the audio? Audio is there? Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Please watch this video and then we'll go
Crispy
on to the
hot
question.
vadas are just seconds away. First, wash your new pack thoroughly. Strip away the hygiene protector cover to unveil the magic nozzle. Unlock and unscrew the nozzle. This moving part is the batter cutter. Check to see if the oil is hot. Hold the pack above but close to the oil. Take care, that's hot oil. Lift the cutter upwards like this. Gently squeeze the pack to force batter out of the nozzle. Watch the batter take the shape of a vada. Slide the vada cutter down to drop the vada-shaped batter into the oil. Take care. Don't let the batter splash in the hot oil. Fry both sides till golden brown. Drain extra oil out and serve. If batter accumulates at the nozzle, wipe with a clean tissue or cloth before making the next vada. If air enters the pack, simply prick with a clean, sharp object. And you're done. You can even have your crispy hot vadas tested by a vada expert. Success! But of course, with new ID Vada batter in a pack that shapes batter into vadas, everybody can vada.
Okay. What did you watch the ad? Oh, sorry. The next video is automatically playing. Sorry for that. Okay. Yeah. What did you see from that video? Making of vada, of course, right? Okay. Can you see my screen now? The PowerPoint screen? Yes. Yeah, using the advertised product, the complete instruction. It was like an instruction manual at least. Okay. So from the advertisement, you tell me what supply chain process does the new ID Vada Batter advertisement address? Is it the plan? Is it the source? Is it the make? Is it the move or sell? Which one did the advertisement address? Sell? Yeah, very good. Make. Shadan says it's make. Yeah, Farah says it's sell. Yeah, Shankar also says it's sell. Kavita says it's sell. Fine, wonderful. Yeah, making, not making, no making, right? Because the making of the pouch or the vada batter is not shown in the video. How to use it, yes, it has been told. And yes, sell. Many of you have told it is sell, how to use it and sell. And yeah, yeah, Shadan. So in which aspect do you say it is? It also covers the making process. Are you saying about the making of vada or making of the pouch or the batter? Yes, Shadan. If you are saying about the making of the pouch or how it is made or how the vada batter is made, uh, that is not covered. That was not covered in the video. Ultimately, the aim of that video is making of the pouch so that the making of vada is easier. But neither the making of pouch was shared into that, how the pouch was made and all that. The supply chain or the assembly line of pouch was not revealed or shown in that. Yes, making of vada, the ultimate, the end result of the outcome was shown in the video. Not exactly. If it is addressing that how the pouch has to be made or how the vada batter has to be made or vada batter has to be stuffed in, if those are the things, yes, we can. But nothing of planning, sourcing, or moving was addressed into that. Yes, good. Many of you got it that it is addressing on the selling aspect. Okay. Now tell me this also. What other supply chain process does the new design support? Now going to the design in the sense, see, if you ask anybody from the south, so those who make vada at home, maybe those who are mature in making vada at home, so especially this vada, urud dal vada, they will find it very difficult to bring that into a shape. You can see the entire different map shapes of the map of India, map of Australia, Antarctica, and all that in vada. But it is obviously very difficult to get a round or cyclical shape of that vada, that to making a hole inside that. Exactly. That is very difficult. But then, yes, yeah. So what other in the design? Yes, make, Snehal says make, Sudarshan is make, yes. Uh, Tanvi says it's move, moving the product from the organization, that is the manufacturer, to the customers. Fine. So I can say for each function we can give a definition on how this design supports. But probably I'm going with most of you. That is, it is making. Yeah. What other supply chain process does the new design support? Yes, of course, it's the making. Because when they came out with this idea, so it was considered as a revolution in this, because anybody who makes vada at home, as I say, getting the shape right is so very difficult. The two, and the consistency of the batter also has to be in proper consistency to get the shape right. So everything getting together and making it happen was very difficult. And when this particular product was introduced, that was a great hit among the markets here. And you go to any departmental store, you will find it. So you ask me whether how I make it or whether it is better than hand. So that's a different issue or scenario. But this is what they are trying to project to the customers, and making their process of making the vada easier, and how the making of the design of that pouch is being taken to the customer. So apart from selling this entire product with the baiter to the customers, it was also the making that was covered in the supply chain design of this process. Yeah, that was great. Fine. So with that same notion, getting to Apple supply chain. So what are they doing exactly? Is Apple supply chain number one really? Yes, because whenever we call or whenever we talk or we discuss, we always refer Apple as example for supply chain, especially whether Zara from one side, Apple from one side, Tesla from the other side, Dell from other side. So without these brands, the supply chain discussion itself becomes empty. So how do Apple does this, covering all the functions of supply chain? So from where do they source? Yes, they source from United States, China, and other Asian countries, and the Europe. And Apple again, their core activity is not manufacturing. Fine. Apple iPhone is the product, and with all the technologies and feature, is the outcome what they want to give it to the customer, and they may not be very sound in manufacturing, and that is the reason why they are outsourcing most of its manufacturing, and mainly assembly is being done in China. Again, various reasons for that. The cost is cheaper, the voluminous production can be done. So once the assembly and manufacturing is done in China, then again, China, why the reason behind outsourcing the assembling to China is first the cheaper cost associated, and the volumes of business that is going to generate, and moreover, accessing to the Asian countries where again the iPhone demand is more, was also easier for them. That is like, if you remember, we were talking about the different markets. So this model is going near to the customer so that the logistics and the distribution costs come down to a greater extent. Then their warehousing was done when they go for intermediate warehouse with the help of UPS and FedEx they were doing. That is for the online stores, because any Apple iPhone, you order online with the touch of the button, So it has to reach the customer. So that delivery part, the last mile delivery part, was taken care by the UPS or the FedEx. But again, you cannot say or you cannot predict to a greater extent from which region is going to be more demand or which region is going to be less demand. Yes, of course, your forecasting function is going to be of great help to you based on the past sales. That is the previous history of sales. Yes, but who knows till pandemic, so such a situation will come and everything and anything will get shifted to online education, online classes. We didn't imagine, we were not used to all such types of online purchasing or online classes, online facilities, online services, that too, especially in pharma industry, in healthcare. In healthcare, online consultation was very new for a country like India. So because we go to a doctor, they touch us, they see the pulse of us. So with the stethoscope, they check our heartbeat. Yes, even if we have some big ailment, if a doctor does all this, uh, um, uh, sorry, if the doctor does all this entry level test checkups, maybe, so it is, you are happy. But never we thought or imagined that this could be a great hit. Still the perception of the customer differs whether they prefer going for online consultation or offline consultation. But this one we never have experienced in all these years before this pandemic. So that was the kind of change, and the iPhone demand might have picked up to a greater extent in a market where they wouldn't have forecasted also. So in that case, what happened? So they were urged, they were compelled to have more number of warehouses and distribution facilities which are located closer to the customer. That is, the regional distribution centers and fulfillment centers are taking the products closer to the customer so that the lead time of the product, end product reaching the customer, comes down, because we also talked about the impulse buying behavior of the customer. And no customer wanted to wait for a longer time. You order something online and you wanted to get it immediately. So that's why we never again thought of in 10 to 30 minutes the grocery will be delivered at your doorstep. So Big Basket was coming with a different ideology of you order today and you tomorrow you will get the supplies. But then when the Swiggy, Instamart, they introduced the 10 minutes delivery, 30 minutes delivery, and all that. So Big Basket again was compelled to transit itself to the minimum time delivery. So that's the changes that's happening. Okay, so with the warehouses and in Elk Grove and California, they were doing the retail stores, delivery to the retail stores and other direct sales force, and to wholesalers, retailers, and network carriers. And finally, the last wing or link of Apple was the returns. So how they are handling the returns again. Uh, Retailer is a person who, yeah, what's the difference between retail stores and retailer? See, retailer is a person who runs the retail stores. Okay. The retail stores may be the Nilgiris, the departmental stores, whatever we have nearby to our house, or in every locality, you have a retail store, a departmental store, whatever it is, you can say it. And the person who is taking charge of the retail stores, he runs the store, right? And he is called the retailer, because he is not only responsible for running the store, but he also has the responsibility of understanding.
The Golden Temple का ticket देखने को.
Yeah, Farah, you are saying something. Okay, I don't know how you are unmuted. I'm okay, fine. Yeah, even I don't know how it got unmuted. Fine, no issues. Yeah, so that's how. And especially when it comes to e-commerce, as I said, the returns percentage is huge compared to the retail stores. So anybody buys something from the nearby retail store, you walk in again, so you know how the retailer reacts. So it's very difficult to return a product. And that is one more reason is, here all the way you have to go back and return the product. But there again, it is with a touch of the button. And we always are lazy as usual. So if it is with a touch of the button, we are fine returning the products in more numbers compared to direct purchases from a nearby retail store. Fine. So that's how Apple also does its supply chain, right from the sourcing, the manufacturing function, the warehousing. All these functions are covered by Apple as well in supply chain. Okay, what does Flipkart's supply chain model says us? So again, Apple has both the option. It is a product. Apple is a product. Flipkart is an entity. Fine. And Flipkart will be handling Apple as a product also in its online delivery. So now hope you understand the difference between e-commerce delivery model and a normal product delivery model. Here in Apple supply chain, Apple is the product, and through multiple intermediaries and channels of distribution, they are reaching the customer. And here, both the modes they use, whether it is a direct purchase of the customers in its Apple stores or any other mobile stores, and online purchases of Apple iPhone through online platforms. So both the methods are possible here. But coming to the Flipkart supply chain, so it's an e-commerce platform. So we have a lot of sellers. Apple may be one seller there, and you have Samsung as one more mobile variant present there. You have any other Vivo, Oppo, any models present there. So it is an aggregator where e-commerce platform where multiple sellers are present in its platform, and it is again connecting to the customers. So here again, make you just identify what actions will be done by Flipkart: plan, source, make, move, sell, returns. So identify in Flipkart's supply chain what could be planning, and where do they need to plan in a e-commerce supply chain. Yes, do they need to plan? Because here they are not manufacturing anything. So even if when they do not manufacture, still do they have to plan? Yeah, plan. What should they plan? Yes, Snehal, yes it is. Yes, Shankar. Threshold inventory. Yeah, that's one important thing which any e-commerce player need to plan. The inventory. Yes, an inventory again, good or bad. That one needs to decide. So sometimes losing a customer for non-availability of the product, then inventory is good or bad. You are losing a customer because of non-availability of a product. So in that case, your inventory is good or bad? Bad. You have lost a customer. Fine. So customer lifetime value. Okay. You have to equate the lost customer value. So maybe he might have bought 5,000 rupees worth product in your e-commerce platform. And due to non-availability of that product in your platform, the customer has migrated to another platform. At that point, holding inventory is good or not holding inventory is good. So inventory is good or bad? Yes, Kavita? Any other viewpoints? You are losing the customer. The customer is lost due to non-availability of product in your platform. So that time, to retain the customer, you need to hold inventory. So inventory is good at that time. Got it? But then you hold more inventory and the customer migrates to another platform. So your holding cost increases. So that time inventory is bad. So nobody can say comment on a single notion saying or come to a consensus ultimately saying inventory is good or bad. Yes, minimum safety stock should be maintained. Right. Yes. But again, here there comes a problem on forecasting, and for all forecasting models are never accurate. So all it has to be anticipated. Only thing is, like we saw in the previous session, you have to make a trade-off. What is that? Where is that I'm going to gain more or lose more? Whether by holding the inventory, if I'm getting a customer and the difference percentage difference is so huge, holding an inventory is going to cost me 500 bucks, for example, I'm saying, and losing a customer is going to cost me 5,000 bucks. So in that case, holding inventory is better. So again, it is a trade-off which you have to do. Nobody can come to a single consensus saying that inventory is good or bad. So like Flipkart has to do all these functions, right? From planning, they have to source because they should understand what type of product is selling most in their platform and how many sellers are there for that particular type of product and from where are they going to source. Only function which in e-commerce companies are not indulging much is making, because none of them as of now manufacture or make any product. Yes, of course they package the product. So Reddington is an official partner for handling iPhones. Okay, so what they do is they procure, they source the iPhones, and the packaging function is done. Because if it is packaged in US or China itself, for example, iPhone is manufactured, assembled, and imagine that it is packed also there, and from China or US it goes to multiple countries, okay, different countries. So in China or US, immediately after production of iPhone, they cannot pack, because in package all the specification goes, all the price rates, everything goes, and the currency differs from country to country. So it is very difficult to package the product also in the production unit itself, in the manufacturing facility itself. So what they do is they send the products to the different countries as per the requirement, and the end product is packaged there in the country of point of sale. So that's what they do. So in that case, making partially, maybe packaging, you can say in case of Flipkart supply chain, packaging will be done by them. Maybe for them also, they'll be having some trading partner who will be taking care of the packaging function in respective country, and that will be sold to the e-commerce players, sent to these e-commerce players. Then sell is the function any e-commerce players does, and returns. Returns is one bothering function which any e-commerce player want to minimize to a greater extent. And the first mile and the last mile challenges. What do you mean by first mile challenge? So last mile challenges we all have been discussing all these years. So wherein a product is finally delivered to the customer's doorsteps. Okay, what is first mile challenge then? Yes, anyone? Procurement, procurement. Okay, Nehal says it's procurement. Anybody else could add on that? Okay, Kavita, Sayanti, Shankar, if anyone can add. A demand planning, yes, during move, Darshan says it's during move, it's a platform, it's demand planning, okay, here and there, everything put together. See, uh, delivering products to a location before last mile. Okay, Farah says delivering products to a location before last mile. Okay, what exactly is this first mile challenges? Picking up the product from the distribution center. So you have a biker, right? Delivering the product at your doorstep. From where is he picking up that product exactly? It may be a distribution center, or it may be a warehouse, bigger warehouse, or it may be a fulfillment center, or it may be a dark store that is closely located to your house. Okay, for your location. So it can be any point from where the biker, that is the last mile delivery boy, picks up the product and deliver it to you. Deliver it to you. Fine. Why first mile is also a challenge is he has to pick up the right product, and there will be hundreds and thousands of delivery boys, and there will be a dark store, there will be a distribution center. And what if the probability of him going wrong in his pickup? What if he has picked up the wrong product? And what if he has picked up a right product to a different location? And what if the product is delivered wrongly to a right customer, or rightly to a wrong customer? Fine. So all these poses a lot of challenges. The first mile, the pickup, which has to be done by this last mile delivery person promptly, correctly, and to minimize and avoid errors, and then connecting finally to the end user, that is the customer. So this too is the greatest challenge as far as the Flipkart's or any e-commerce player's supply chain is concerned. So what Flipkart does for this is order is placed by the customer, inventory check at the local warehouse if it is done. Yes, packaging, as I said, they have channel partners who are exclusively indulged into the packaging function because the reason is this. We have multinational companies functioning and we are procuring finished products from different countries, and packaging at the point of production itself is practically not possible, and it is both time consuming as well as waste of activity because every country has different language, currency. So imagine packaging, having the packaging function at the production unit itself is going to be a waste of time, energy, resources, everything. So packaging is done at the country, and Flipkart also is done at the point of sale of country. And the delivery, courier, yes, what they do, Indian Post own internal logistics arm. Yes, Flipkart has their own internal logistics arm. What is it called? What is the logistics arm of Flipkart called? That's great, Sudarshan. It's e-card, yes. This also, there's an interesting reason behind why Flipkart has gone or started, initiated an internal logistics arm is because of just a quick discussion, maybe a deviation from the normal one, but just I wanted to share this with all of you. Uh, in the last session, we were discussing about the COD, cash on delivery. And that too in a country like India, 70% of the online sales happens through cash on delivery. Okay. Why? Let's not discuss on that because you all know the Indian mentality, our mindset, and all that, customers, how we feel, and all that. Yes. And in this 70%, when the last mile delivery partner collects the money from the customer, it takes almost 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days for the collected cash to get remitted to the Flipkart. Okay. And again, the credit cycle, everything, lot of formalities involved. He has to collect from the customer and he has to remit the cash only at the end of the day to his office. And that person maybe accumulate all the collected money next day or the next day. He has to remit in the bank. And the credit cycle and the cash to cash cycle or credit cycle takes more time in reaching the Flipkart's accounting department. So to remove that, to minimize the time taken to the cash reach their supply chain, yes, does Flipkart stores ship the material from supplier location or from their warehouses? Both. See, they have both the models. They do this, that is the hybrid model, because it depends on the product what you are they are handling. As I said, they have dark stores, and maybe take for example Delhi in Sarojini Nagar market. So they analyze a sequence of past sales and which are the fast moving products which are in high demand. So that will be taken to the dark stores and which will be closely located to the selling point. Fine. But at the same time, maybe a furniture, right? You want to buy a furniture, and practically, and it is not possible to take the furniture and store in the dark stores. First thing is there is not much demand for the furniture, but at the same time, we can't say there is no demand also for the furniture. The proximity of purchase compared, for example, if water bottle is bought in hundreds and thousands of units in summer, compared to a furniture. So which one would you prefer? Because the space occupied by a water bottle is comparatively less than the space occupied by a furniture. So the product which is in scarce demand or less demand, I can say, those are not moved closer to the customers. So they are left at the regional distribution centers or sometimes with the sellers itself. So you are ordering a furniture from Tikanook. Maybe the platform, the seller is available in the Flipkart platform also, and you are ordering from there. So it's a sofa set or a cot. Sometimes the order directly goes to the seller and it is delivered to the customer. So it is part of a drop shipping, like a cross docking is done. In cross-docking, what happens is it is brought to a place and without much of storage and warehousing function, directly it is delivered to the customer. So it depends on the product, and they will decide on how it, whether it can be moved directly from the seller to the customer or should it take it to the warehouses. Okay. Uh, um, Order frequency of the product, the demand of the product. That's what Flipkart does. Okay. So when yes, so this is on the, if yes, yes, packaging will be done. Then if no, inventory check at the local warehouse. If that is not done, then inventory check at the other warehouses will be done. Even if that is not done, then JIT procurement from local vendors. So this is what I was saying. Just in time procurement from the local vendors will be done if it's a furniture. Maybe once in a month or maybe 5 times in a month furnitures are ordered in the Flipkart platform. So in that case, it is waste of space for Flipkart to bring the furnitures and hold in their warehouses also. And there again, you will not know which furniture will be moving faster. So in that point of time, so what they will do is just in time procurement will be done from the local vendors and other vendors also. Okay, this is about the Flipkart supply chain model. Yeah, yes. Okay. How, yes, how is the design transition happen? So keeping all these changes that is happening and that too first mover advantage, any player, new player in the market. So whatever he does, people used to follow immediately. What Coke does immediately, Pepsi follows, and this has been going for a longer period. And that too, when Swiggy Instamart came with 20 or 30 minutes delivery, now Big Basket also has plunged into 30 minutes delivery pattern. So that is how one has to transit in their services being done to the customers. Otherwise, today's customers are not brand loyal. So you go to as I told you previously, also citing an example, when we go to a bookstore and the book is not available, we immediately tend to move on to the next store. So none of us tend to wait for a longer time. So that is the important catch as far as any business is concerned. No customer wanted to wait for a longer period of time. Okay, so accordingly they have to transit, and technology also has made it easy, which has minimized the waiting time of the customer to a greater extent. So how this traditional supply chain has transformed into a demand driven supply chain is here. Like demand spikes, we have a retail stores. So 1 to 2 days it takes to go to the retailer's warehouse, and again 2 to 3 days in total. Again 1 to 2 days to the manufacturer's warehouse, again manufacturer's factory, and again from raw materials. So from raw materials, how many days it takes to bring it to the retail stores. Now, how the demand-driven supply chain has changed is, so same again from the raw materials, it has come to the manufacturer's factory in 1 to 2 days, in 1 to 2 days, the same day, because every channel partner, it is not waiting for a longer time. The lead time or the waiting time is minimized to a greater extent on the same 1 2 day time period. So it has been brought to the retailer's warehouse itself. So that is where the demand driven supply chain happens, because the product flow constantly happens in this demand driven supply chain, because you have all the partners taking part into this supply chain. So we also call one more terminology named vendor managed inventory. So wherein, why? Because we have a lot of suppliers and vendors, involving them into your supply chain, so that when and where you require the raw material, the information immediately goes hands on to the vendor also. So otherwise, normally in traditional supply chain, what we do is we understand first what is going to be the demand, and we used to calculate the safety stock and all that. Then we place the order to our supplier, which may again delay the delivery of the raw materials to you. But then now it is instantly created. Demand is instantly known to the supplier also, so that he is also part of your supply chain, and the time period, the lead time is consecutively decreased to a greater extent, and the customer is ultimately benefited. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question, Kavita. That's wonderful. What is the difference between a supplier and vendor? Yes. Yes. Anybody else? Would you want to take Kavita's question? What is the difference between a supplier and a vendor? Because we use them interchangeably. Some places we say supplier, some places we say vendor. Because this is one predominant. Why I still remember is this was the question when I asked my faculty when I was doing MBA a long back. Okay. Yes. Anybody else who can address that or who has the same doubt? Okay. A supplier is a person, yes, who more of a raw material we buy from a supplier. He manufactures raw materials and he sells or sends the raw materials to a manufacturer, which is further put into production and the end product is rolled out. But at the same time, a vendor is a different person. But sometimes we call a vendor also as a supplier. We use this word interchangeably. But then the process is done, the manufacturing is done when we procure a raw material from a supplier and put that into further production and roll it out as a finished product. But a vendor not always is a supplier, but at times he is called as a supplier also. Yes, if he need not to be manufacturing the raw material as such, he may be buying it from somebody else and he may be selling it to the manufacturer or the end user also. In that case, we call him as a vendor. So actually, in a supplier, that is why we call tier one supplier, tier two supplier, but not tier one vendor, tier two vendor. From vendor also we buy some material from raw materials and all that, but vendor is not putting himself into production, whereas the supplier does a production activity and he supplies the raw material to a manufacturer. But vendor at times he buys also some portion or stationery for example, you buy for your production unit, fine. Some stationery paper manufacturer is there, he is a supplier, and maybe for an automobile industry the supplier would be the supplier of the raw materials and the components which makes your auto, that is a car. We call him as a supplier. But vendor can be a person who supplies stationery or paper or pen and other administrative materials to you, which is a support material for carrying out your production function. So that is where we demarcate, but in real terms, we use both of them interchangeably. At times we call supplier and at times we call vendor. So more technically, if you go inside, so this is the difference between the supplier and a vendor. Fine. Is it answered? Yes, yes. Vendor could be buying for multiple suppliers and vendor himself also will be a supplier at sometimes. Okay, he will be buying from multiple suppliers and he will be giving it to the user. User can be manufacturer here or it may be any other end user also. Okay, okay, that was a good question. Okay. Okay. Now moving on to SNOP, which again we saw in the last class. So I'm just going fast in this. So where we have to differentiate between the sales and the operation. So sales always we focus on the forecasting, gathering of data, because ultimately sales is going to give us the resultant figure of our profitability. Okay, more the sales, yes, my profit percentage is going to go up. So I have to be very careful in sales forecasting, and based on that is what I am going to plan, make, source, all the other function happens from there, generated from there. So once I have decided for sales, forecasting is done, then demand planning also is done, because forecasting, I may forecast that based on the meteorological department circular notice. So I may think that this year monsoon is going to be normal. So based on that, I may think for umbrella production, right? So, and also I will take that as demand planning. The other side, I will also take into consideration what was my umbrella sales previous year. So that is, and with that same trend, how was this year's umbrella sales going to happen? So here I have to take two factors into consideration. One is the sales forecasting and the demand planning. Both has to dwell and go hand in hand. So that is my sales function. Once I have decided on my sales function, I have predicted the demand, I have forecasted my sales, and I will go into operations. So here is where I have to plan for my supply planning, and pre SNOP reconciliation plan, that is match your supplying with the demand. If imagine the monsoon is going to be high and there is going to be more demand for your umbrellas, but your previous history says that since there was a normal below normal monsoon in the previous year and considerate less sales in the previous year, so it is going to vary. So here is where you have to match supply and demand. How is the supply and how is the demand, or how is the demand and how is the supply? It has to be matched, mapped, and then decided upon the operations. How many units should I produce? What is the operation should I have? And how is it going to result in my end sales that is going to fetch profits for my business? So that is where you will finalize the S&OP and link the implementation to finalize the plan and release it for implementation. So implementation part happens in your operations. Sales is totally upon the forecasting and the demand planning activity. And operations is where you do the real-time operations, the processes in your organization, and deliver the end result, and you start implementing the uh, process as well. So that is what is explained here as well. The plan, source, make, deliver, how is it related to the sales and operations plan? So quickly moving from there, because we have seen about touched upon this. So a small sales and operation planning for Unilever. It's a small case for you. I'm just going fast in this. So how Unilever was doing in Eastern and Western Europe. So first let us see Eastern Europe, in Poland, what they were doing. The local board was frustrated by the inability of the business to forecast accurately even in the near term. So the board members, the local board members are frustrated because they feel that their forecasting inaccuracy is reflecting in the sales of them. So what is the actual problem they faced is the business was able to accurately forecast, but the mindset of leadership wouldn't allow them to tell the board the truth. The forecasting team was doing their part better, but then the results of the forecast was not accepted by the leadership team, and neither they were ready to hear the fact that is happening on the real front, okay, on the Unilever business. So what is the solution? All it took was an internal set of Unilever consultants without any preconceived notions about the business to point out the board's behavior of rewarding good news and punishing the bad news. So that is, it is more of a human type of handling situation. So human resources type of handling situation. So understanding what is the outcome or output shared by the consultants, that is the forecasting team, and how is it has to be treated. So rewarding for good news and punishing for bad news. That is, if their forecasting is going right, rewarding them on that. And punishing in the sense, not exactly punishing. So maybe the scores or maybe the appraisal part they may be focused upon. And after this, what happened is immediately within 2 months, the behavior of the board was greatly improved, and so was the quality of the forecasting process. So at the moment you reward anyone for best forecasting, so obviously they tend to focus more and involve more and release more good results. Okay. So what is learning related to SNOP in this case? So how was that? So initially they had a good forecasting team, but the mindset of the leadership team was not open. They were not ready to accept the results of the forecasting team shared by them. But then the solution suggested was this: you award the good forecasters and you uh, maybe warn the bad forecasters. I can put it in that way instead of saying punishment. So what is the learning related to SNOP in this case? How was sales and operations planning done? Transparency, very good. Transparency, yes, Kavita, good. So when they were more transparent and being more employee friendly, recognition, yes, the results were collaboration, open for idea. That is right. Open for ideas, inviting employees to participating in decision making, maybe problem solving. Fine. So yes, so that was the S&OP covered in this case. Okay. The same happened in Western Europe, that is in Germany. The leading country in Unilever and S&OP terms has a mindset of continuous improvement around the process. They have recognized that we are operating in a volatile world and therefore the process needs to be both robust and flexible enough to manage the vagaries of both internal and external change. So, giving room of space for internal as well as external change. So, for instance, as one of the big countries in Unilever with a complex retail environment, that is Germany, they initially put in extra meetings to manage the complexity of their forecast process because there they have said both internal and external change is required. So, however, as they have got more skilled and knowledgeable in how best to operate S&OP, they are now looking to simplify the process and where possible forecast is at a more aggregated level of the customer hierarchy. So more of aggregate planning rather than very micro level planning. Okay. Now in this, tell me what is the supply chain implication of forecasting at aggregated level of customer hierarchy. So how aggregated planning is going to help them out. Okay, aggregated is more accurate. Yes, aggregated is more accurate because you are focusing more on the phase of customer buying behavior on the product line also. So you have an accurate statistics in hand, and more of this aggregated level planning is going to help them out. Uh, yeah, volatility of demand is low, which helps in getting better forecast. Yes, demand volatility, yes, when it is low, in a highly volatile environment, your demand forecasting and prediction mostly goes wrong. Yes, this environment, if it is not highly volatile, it is comparatively considerably easy for us to predict accurately, and that too the duration. So, shorter the duration, which duration can the demand be accurate, short term or long term? Yes, of course. Shorter the duration of your demand forecasting, more accurate results you are going to get because next 1 month, what is the weather forecast for next 1 month and weather forecast for next 1 year, which is going to be more accurate. Maybe the for the next week or next month only, it's going to be more accurate. Okay. So same is the scenario for industries as well. Okay, that is about the SNOP, sales and operations planning at Unilever in both Western and the Eastern Europe and how they have implemented and did the process change for the better SNOP outcome. Okay, so when we are talking about the SNOP outcome, not only for Unilever, that is the same as far as the other industries are also concerned. So we had the demand planning, supply planning. So we have been, discussed more on the demand and supply planning, both in the last session and today's session. And coming back to that, the outcome of this demand and supply planning is going to be sales and operations planning, which is going to take us to the production planning. And production planning, what is MPS? The MPS is the consolidated manufacturing schedule of all production facilities. What is MPS? Great. Yeah, that's right, Sudarshan. It's master production schedule, mainly for FG. Yes, yes, right. Okay, the production planning is so very crucial, and the master production schedule, which they are preparing and rolling out. So it's very important for any production organization, for that matter, because it all evolves around the strategic business plan, the production plan, and once the production plan is rolled out, yeah. If I'm a car manufacturer, maybe a Hyundai or a Maruti, so close to 1 lakh units if I'm rolling out per year. So what is going to be per quarter rollout and per month rollout and per week rollout and per days rollout. So I'm bringing it from a macro level, downsizing to a micro level which is going to be present in my master production schedule. Because saying that I'm going to roll out 1 lakh unit of cars per year, so that's a very, very vague statement, which is not going to address my procurement function or issues. Because only if I break down my production planning or the master MPS to a micro level, it will be easy for me to plan the function of procurement, identifying the suppliers and what to procure, when to procure, what is the level of procurement for everything. So that has to be brought down to a granular basis. So for that too, the master production schedule is very, very important. And in that, from that evolves the materials requirement planning. So that's where I was saying about for a week, what is going to be my production, number of production units, and again to downsize that to a day's figure, or maybe in a day I may be operating 3 shifts. So per shift, what is going to be my rollout, and what is the variant, what are the segments in that, how many sedans, how many SUVs, how many hatchback in that. Because for each and every model, the specifications are going to differ, and the number of procurement components are going to differ. Maybe how many tires do I require for a car. Maybe in this case of tire, same number is required for an SUV as well as hatchback as well as sedan. Okay, maybe you put it in this way. Like again, it goes with the model. If the high-end model comes with 4 tires along with one more spare tire, fine. So maybe the low-end model may not come with that, but now spare tires are coming with all the models. But let us take it as for a the upholstery. Maybe the leather seatings and all that. Maybe the airbag. You can take the example of airbag. So the higher-end model has more airbags. So I have to plan all these things in my material requirements planning. So that is possible only if I break down my master production schedule on a micro level basis, on a miniature basis, granular basis. So more specific and accurate forecasting and demand planning can be done only if I prune down to a greater extent my production scheduling. So production activity control also will be possible only if you do in that way, and which will take you for purchasing. Purchasing again a procurement function from a raw material supplier. How much you need to, because procuring in bulk. So ultimately, end of the day or end of the year, 1 lakh units of car I'm going to roll out. But I can't procure all the raw materials required to roll out my 1 lakh units of car on day one itself. Imagine what is going to be the space it is going to occupy, the warehousing cost, the storage cost. Then maybe the ordering cost may come down because only once in a year you're going to order. But when you compare the ordering cost with the storage cost, it will be, there will be a huge difference in that. So there I have to plan again. What at what frequent intervals I'm going to place order, how am I going to buy? Again, this also is the resultant figure of the safety stock what I need to hold. So planning all these things, I have to focus upon the MPS, that is the master production schedule. And one more thing is the bill of material, BOM. Have you all heard of bill of materials? Yeah, yeah. So where do we do that, or where do we execute this bill of material? So you have identified the material requirements planning. So if I have identified I need 100 units of engine for that week's production or that day's production. Maybe in a week I need 1000 engines. 1000 engines, and I may require again for each car music system is there, 1000 music system. But when it comes to airbag, I may not require 1000, but 4 or 2 in a depending on the number of airbags required, the two for a higher end models, I may require only 500 airbags. So after planning my activity, production activity, so I need to zero in on how exactly and what is the number of items I need to procure. So your bill of material is the list of raw materials or the other components, everything. A high description of items, those are required to continue my production in the forthcoming days. So that has to be very clearly specified and issued to your supplier. So on procuring the requirement of raw materials that are required for production, your production function will start. But then your bill of material is going to be a very, very supporting and authenticated document to make you as well as your supplier understand that these are the list of raw materials required. Okay, that also becomes a checklist for them, both to deliver the products as well as to raise the invoice for payment. Okay. Okay, so with this, we saw about the sales and operations function, and we just came from the supply chain different function like making, sourcing, and all that. So we saw about how SNOP outcome is taking us to the sourcing function. Yes, the production team. They create the bill of material because they only see not the nowadays it's not the production team. We have a separate team called the procurement team. Okay, the production team will tell them not on and off. They will come and tell, but everything is getting into ERP systems now. So automatically, once you feed the number of vehicles to be rolled out for a particular week or day, so automatically first instance you need to update all the numbers. Then you give the cycle and it rotates. Fine. Your procurement team generates the bill of material because they are the one who source it from the suppliers and share it with the production team. Okay. So what is this sourcing and why sourcing is discussed so high in a and an important function as far as supply chain linkage is concerned? Okay. So because only if you source the right material, there are 7 steps. So this is self-explanatory. I'm not going deep into the steps of sourcing, but when we talk about the sourcing, three important factors that comes to anybody's mind is the one has to remember sourcing manager. What he has to keep in mind is the uh, spend analysis. Spend analysis always will be done based on the budgeting. See, every department, every unit will have a budgeting constraints and a budget allocated for every function of it. Uh, function of it. So, what a sourcing manager would do is again go back and probing the previous years or the history of how the spend, how the expenses have been done so far. Okay, uh, you take the example of your house itself. You ask your mom or your wife, anybody who's taking care of the entire expenses in your house, they always used to compare the previous month's expenses with the current month or previous month before that and all that. And clearly you can just identify which are the areas you have spent more and you have spent less, and which are the areas you have spent without any result, that is waste, and which are productive. So even in a household, in the simplistic terms, we are able to identify and differentiate, or else in the forthcoming months, that will be acting a precedence for us, a prelude for us to cut the area of expenses wherever it was a pilferage, wherever it was not wanted. Maybe in the previous month, we might have spent more on the entertainment. So which has towards the end of the month might have you might have gone short for your household expenses. So that is a precedence for you to understand going forward where are the areas, where are the gray areas, identification of gray areas, and cutting forth the expenses in that respective gray areas. So spend analysis is very, very important as far as any organization also is considered, because sourcing managers who goes back, identify so what which areas they have spent and how beneficially that has been put into or transformed or put into use, or unwanted areas maybe like again stationery. Fine. So that is a support component or a product for your production. Again, your organization has decided to go green. They don't want to go for printing and everything is sent online or through mail and all that. So if that is the case, that is the transition your organization is planning. Then in the previous month, if you had spent more on the stationaries, so this is for you to identify that that is a waste of expense for you and to minimize expense in that specific area. So spend analysis to a greater extent will help you out in identifying and pruning that activity. Okay, then it is the data driven supplier selection. Okay, so this is what again spend analysis explains. So what are you buying, and how much have you paid, how much have you bought, and what is delivered, who's buying? All this you will do in spend analysis just to know whether we are going or proceeding in the right direction or not. So if not, where we have to cut our expenses. That is what your spend analysis will teach you. So once that is done, so for a procurement or a sourcing function to be more effective, what is the next immediate area is the supplier analysis. How are you implement your sourcing? There are 10 suppliers, there are 20 suppliers for your, maybe you are a automobile manufacturer, fine, and you are procuring some intricate components that goes inside the mobile, maybe the speaker or something like that. Fine. And you have 10 to 12 suppliers for the same. And you have all these suppliers in your list. But then always you don't want to give business to all the suppliers. Or else, if you are launching a new product, maybe you are, imagine you are a cycle manufacturer, right? You are launching a new product, a cycle with a GPS facility and okay, let us keep it as GPS facility. Fine. So now in bikes also Bluetooth has come and GPS facility, navigation facility has come. So being a cycle manufacturer, you have understood the trend that with the hiking, increasing petrol prices, people are moving due to health consciousness also. There are more number of cycle buyers now. So understanding the trend, you also already you are a cycle manufacturer and you wanted to produce new models of cycle with GPS facilities and all that. So now you have to identify suppliers for that. So this is a new facility. You will be already having existing suppliers, but this is based on the technology which you want to imbibe in your cycle production. So you are in look of new suppliers. So how you are going to select your suppliers, that plays a major role in the entire product outcome itself. So how usually we do that is, okay, in two models. One is a lead supplier model wherein we have one supplier and he will be the main supplier, and from him the other suppliers, like the vendor concept we were discussing, right? So others may be vendors who will be buying from the suppliers and selling it to us. So that is having one supplier as a lead supplier and other suppliers as a micro level vendors. And otherwise also we have a collaborative partnering model. So everybody collaborates with each other on, they form a cartel, and maybe a regional basis or a product wise basis they divide among themselves and they supply to the customers. Okay, so in real life parlance, how we are going to identify a customer? Okay, so I have a small activity for that, which I'm where I'm going to engage all of you. Okay, I'm going to stop share my screen. Okay, so here for this activity, I need three volunteers, three of you who are going to be suppliers. Maybe let us take the same cycle manufacturer for example. So imagine you are a Hero cycle manufacturer or Atlas. Let us keep it as Hero itself. Yes, Hero cycle manufacturer, and you wanted to roll out a new cycle version with an GPS facility, right? So since you are going into this new idea, you are looking for more new suppliers, and you wanted to keep a list of suppliers those who are going to solve your requirement. Okay, so I need three of you, or two of you also fine. Two of you to be your suppliers, to be there the manufacturer. Others are going to be manufacturers, cycle manufacturers. Two of you will be their suppliers. So once you volunteer, I will put you separately in a breakout room. So because once you go to the breakout room, okay, because I will also tell you here, being a cycle all the others are cycle manufacturers, you being a supplier of the yeah, volunteers can raise hands, otherwise I can nominate also, if not, fine. So these suppliers, I will give you some 2 or 3 minutes for you all to plan, because once you come back from the breakout room, so these manufacturers, you are going to present to these manufacturers on how you will be supplying, what are the product specifications, what is that you will give them, what is going to be the credit cycle, whether you will be flexible enough, or what is the years of experience you have in that field. So all these are the areas you are going to cover up, and you are going to present yourself in front of the manufacturers. So let the manufacturers decide whom they are going to select from you as their supplier. So just like that, they are not going to select, so they are going to give weightage for each supplier. So based on which you will be selected as their supplier. Okay, yeah. So it's not as yeah. Sayanti and Kavita, fine. Sayanti and Kavita, I will put you both to a breakout room. Okay, I am assigning Kavita Alavani, right? And Sayanti. I'm allocating both of you to the breakout room I have allotted. And room 2 is going to be manufacturers. If anyone else also wanted to join as supplier, you can. Then we'll be having 3 suppliers. So I'm allocating others as manufacturers. Okay. Okay. Uh, so now, okay. Sayanti and others. Yeah, please go to your respective rooms. Maybe. Okay, I have named 2 rooms. One is the suppliers and the other one is the manufacturer. As I said, okay, okay. So just 2 minutes. So once Sayanti and the other supplier is ready, we can just call them to present themselves and you will select your supplier. Okay, 2 minute short break. Okay, I'll close the breakout room now so that you can come back and present yourself. So it has 50 minutes time, 50 seconds time to close the breakout room and come back to the main platform here. Okay, welcome back, Sayanti and Kavita. So whom shall we have first to present? Kavita, are you ready?
Hello.
Yeah, Sayanti, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Sayanti. Sayanti, just assume yourself as the supplier and tell the manufacturers that your about you and brief history and what are all the services you will provide them. So they can be addressing from like the your number of experience, the price and the product quality, post sales service, credit cycle, on-time delivery, flexibility, and whichever parameter you feel that you are with that you are going to please your manufacturers, you can just quit.
Okay.
Others can just listen to her. So because based on that only, you are going to give a score for Sayanti and then Kavita, and finally let us see who will be the preferred supplier by all the manufacturers.
Okay. Hi everyone. So we have been one of the leading manufacturer, supplier of tires for bicycles. So we are in the industry. We are leading the industry for around 10 plus years. And we have different types of tires with us, like the tubular, the tubeless, clincher. You will get all the types of tires. And in terms of the features also, our tire has the special spikes in it, so which offers a like a smooth brake, like whenever you are riding, so you will feel smoothness in the ride, and there will be very less slipperiness, so in order to avoid any kind of accidents. So yeah, so these features are there. And in terms of we have different sizes in our tires, which we provide for different, like for the kids to the men's section, men's cycle range. Okay. And in terms of pricing, we have a very competitive pricing in the market. So do we need to mention the price, or this is fine?
If they ask, you can now because it's
Okay,
so
so
vague we
yeah.
can't. Yeah.
Okay, so that's it from my end.
Okay, that's fine, Sayanti. Actually, I missed one point here. I should have told the suppliers what exactly are they supplying to the manufacturer. So in your case, you have taken tire. But then if Kavita has not taken tire, then comparison would be difficult. Fine. So let's see what happens. So otherwise, no issues.
Yeah,
Kavita, are
yeah.
you ready?
Yeah, ma'am. So we did discuss. So we zeroed on like doing it for tires. So
Okay, that's great.
yeah. So hi everyone. So we are the one of the leading manufacturers of tires in the country, with the experience of producing high quality tires from last 20 years. And we have two different categories of tires, which will two models basically, which can cater to both the higher segments of the customer base, who require have a higher requirement, like for mountain biking or sport biking. So those are the higher quality tires which can deal with all kind of situations. And we have a user for the regular tires as well, which are priced at a lower end. And then also we are providing for both the models. And also the lead times are like very much within the industry trend. So we provide within 1 month of lead time. So yeah, yeah, thank you.
Okay, okay, that's great. Now it's your turn, manufacturers. I will share a scorecard here. Okay, so wherein again the item supplied is tire, so I'm removing these other two things here. Okay, so let's take one by one. So let this score sheet be for Sayanti. Fine. And see, uh, weightage has been given. See, this again can be changed. Either the parameters, the supplier criteria, what you're going to fix up, or that can be changed, because this is being a cycle manufacturer. I have come out with few, because in such online sessions, coming out with variety in activity is also difficult, and the time is also very less. So I have given some pre thought parameters here. It can be more than that, and it can be changed, and it can be beyond this also. And based on that, I also have given weightage. Now, as the manufacturer, so you all should tell me what could be the score you are going to give for Scienti. So she explained, as a supplier, so she will be supplying you the tire on the so and so specifications and all that. So as far as the price is concerned, what could be the score you're going to give for Sayanti? So actually, I wanted to have manufacturers in different breakout room also, but then again that was difficult to put you each and everyone separately in a breakout room and get the results and then compile it. Again, I have to take an average of that and put it here. So shall we do one thing? One of you as a manufacturer can be representative and give scores. Can anybody do that? Anushri, Hardik, Sameer, Shadan, any one of you? Any manufacturer as a volunteer? Shankar, Sudarshan. So your score will be taken as an unanimous score. So no issues. Otherwise, actually, usually in a classroom scenario, we used to put manufacturers together and do this. So practically not possible. So can we have Sudarshan to do that? Yeah, fine. Okay. So 4, right? For number of years in business, 4. Okay. For reputation within the industry, 3. Okay. So management and culture, she may not have covered certain areas. Fine, let us take it as 3. And the product quality, 4. Okay. Post sale service and support, 4. Okay. On time delivery, Yeah, have you given anything for on-time delivery? Darshan? Mention short lead times going with 4. Okay, fine, because that's exactly they have not. Fine, great. Flexibility? 5, great. And credit cycle. So though they have not mentioned specifically anything on credit cycle, I'm leaving it up to you. These parameters, if we had exposed it to the suppliers, they might have prepared in those lines. Okay, credit cycle. Fine. Okay, fine. So keeping the scores intact on, so weighted average we are calculating, and 3.9 is the score secured by Scienty as a supplier. So let's see for supplier 2, Kavita. So here the supplier is Kavita. Okay. Fine. Higher. Okay. So for price, what score would you like to give? 4. Okay. Then for number of years in business, 3. Okay. Reputation, 4. Okay. Management and culture, 4. Okay. Product quality, 3. Okay. 3. Okay. Post sales service and support, 3. Okay. On time delivery, yeah, for on time delivery, 3. Okay. Just 3 for on time delivery. Okay. Flexibility, flexibility, 5. Okay. And 5. Okay. So this is the score as the supplier we are giving for. Okay, Kavita, fine. See, again, chart plotting and all that I have, but I don't want to waste time on that. I'm going. This Excel sheet I will share with you. You can just refer later. See, 3.0. See, nothing here because it was not, the instructions and the parameters were not properly disclosed to the suppliers because due to paucity of time, again, the product raw material specification again was not given. After that I realized, but then good that they both took tires. So only if the product is the same, the raw material is the same, there would be ground for some comparison also. So within the given time and instructions, they really did well. So they had, usually what we do is in an organizational setup also, what they do, they have a scorecard based on which, so similar to what we have for our appraisal methods, right? So likewise, to understand or gauge the performance of suppliers as well, organization will be going on the scorecard method. So how the weightage, so which one here price has been given weightage because cost is one factor which any organization want to work upon. So based on that, they can fix up the parameters, the weightage, and this also can be disclosed to the suppliers. In fact, this has to be disclosed to the supplier, and that is where they go in for RFP, RFQ, request for proposal and quotation, And all these parameters will be addressed inside that RFP and RFQ. And finally, based on that too, the supplier selection will be happening in any industry for that matter. Okay, fine. I'm going back, leaving the breakout room. Okay, so I am just going back, stop sharing, and going back to the presentation here. Okay, thank you, Sayanti and Kavita, for your enthusiastic participation. So, though next time we'll plan better and a better assignment of roles and responsibilities. So, I just wanted to tell you that in fact, instead of just choosing the supplier on one or two parameters, I just wanted to evidently show in front of you that how a supplier is selected based on the parameters, and these parameters will differ from industry to industry. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is a small case on Cisco. I would like to handle again on my recording. Okay, okay. So fine. This is a small case study on vendor management. So firstly, we saw about sourcing, and in sourcing, how are we going to analyze the spend, that is the spend analysis part of it, and then the supplier selection. So with the help of a scorecard, companies does that. And how next important thing is, once you have chosen the supplier, and managing the vendor is a very crucial function as far as any organization is concerned. So how that was done by Cisco, like the challenge what they had in vendor management is they had more than 35,000 employees and hundreds of locations, and they use their own products and services wherever possible, but still spend more than 500 million US dollars a year globally on other IT products and services. Okay, then lack of persistent processes and strategic planning cost Cisco significant amount of money. So that means what is going to be the next process, the immediate step-by-step process. So that was lacking to a great extent, as well as the strategic planning as far as Cisco is concerned. And they had signed multi-year contracts for products that become obsolete. See, one important again factor here to be considered is signing a contract for years together, maybe 5 or 10 years, like a lease agreement, and onboarding the supplier and getting into a commitment. See, actually, in this fast moving world, that is no more going to work out. What if it have happened in some 10 years back when pagers were rolled out? They had got not even 10 years, more than that, some 20 years back when pagers were rolled out. What if they had gone into a long term agreement and a contract with the supplier for 20 years down the line? When maybe immediately after 2 or 3 years, pagers themselves became redundant. Okay, so it is always not advisable for getting into a long term contract in this technologically upgraded industry. Fine. So that was one of the mistake or challenge for Cisco, because when they enter into a contract for particular raw material over a period of time, that became obsolete for them. So it was a great uh, crisis for them, a great issue and challenge for them. So what could have been done? So Global Vendor Management Office, they have a VMO, right, within Cisco that supports strategic vendor relationships according across the IT organization. So, say the central team was to a greater extent understanding what is the technological updations happening in the industry front, what is the movement uh, that is rapidly happening in the industry, but seeing others also how they have to refine and define themselves. So, to a great extent, this global vendor management office, that is this team, enable them on selection of vendors and getting into a contractual agreement for shorter periods, shorter time frames, rather than going for longer time frames. So you can also renew the contract with the supplier, but always suggesting to go for a shorter time frame for the vendor with the vendor on agreement of contracts. Okay, so again they like define the 7 phases. They were engaging, investigating each and every vendor, evaluating. So because by implementing these compliances and these procedures, they were able to overcome the contract or the crisis. Sorry, overcome the crisis what they earlier had with the existing contractors for a long term, and the result of which was the obsolete raw materials. Okay, so that was a shorter case of Cisco. Okay, okay. Again, a further extension of like we had a difference between we were skeptical on the vendor and the supplier. The usual any doubt that comes to anybody is on the sourcing and purchasing. So, what is the difference between sourcing and purchasing? Are they same or are they different? I can say sourcing is more strategic and purchasing is more administrative. Okay, because we can purchase any ream of paper or a stationery item or a water bottle. So these items which I purchase most probably will go as a support function for my main production. So being a cycle manufacturer, right? I may require raw materials like a brake, pedal, and the tire, what you all said. So those things I need to identify my supplier, and you had to go through the supplier analysis part and the sourcing part. I need to identify the need. So it's a step-by-step process which I have to scrutinize very, very carefully. But at the same time, when it comes to purchasing, it is not so. Because on an operational basis, I may be doing a purchasing function. Okay, the activity what I do after identifying the supplier may be called as a purchasing activity. But in industry parlance, we call that more of a sourcing because that sounds more strategic when compared to a purchasing. Because purchasing food items, snack item for your employee, even that comes under purchasing, but you cannot call that as a sourcing. Okay, the parts, the raw materials or the components that goes inside your assembly line on the main product, the finished product, we call those as sourcing, and the other ones on an operational basis, whatever we use, we call them as a purchasing. Okay, there are again direct sourcing where you will directly source through raising the bill of material, and indirect sourcing, they are not part of bill of material, but again you are telling them like, see, for you are raising a list, that is the bill of material to your supplier, and giving all the specifications and placing an order. So that is direct sourcing where you are procuring from the supplier. So again, the items, certain items, as I said, the stationary item or the operational items or the administrative items you may require on for your day-to-day functioning. So they need not to be part of a bill of material, but then invoice can be raised for that and an invoice can be given for that. So they come under the indirect sourcing. So majorly that goes inside the production function comes under direct sourcing. The other things that are going for the support functions, they come as the direct sourcing for any organization. Okay, then here I have, so I will buy once I decide that I'm not going to make that particular component or a raw material, and I have decided I'm going to focus on my core function and I'm going to buy these raw materials from somebody else. Fine. But what if I may also decide that Yes, I'm not going to buy the product because over a period of time, I want to insource each and every item that goes inside my finished product. Uh, the sourcing team is as same as procurement team. Yes, they are as same as procurement team because they only know that what exactly is the number of items they have to add, which and frequency of purchase. Okay, they are part of the procuring team. Again, interchangeably we use that is the sourcing team. Right? Yes, Kavita. Okay. So yes. Fine. That is the so here I have decided that for some years I've been buying tires from Kavita and Sayanti. Fine. After that, I have decided that yes, no, I will produce it by myself because procuring from these two suppliers or one supplier, I'm making my reliance more on these suppliers. And maybe there may be some reasons also they are not sending on time and the lead time is more. The reason may be anything. Okay, so, how will I decide that, or how will I come to a conclusion whether I should make or buy? Okay, that's a very great decision, very important decision any organization takes. Okay, so before I decide upon whether I'm going to buy or make, so I have to understand what is going to be the result of these decisions. So, what is the demand? So, I have to establish operations strategy baseline and what is the demand, what are the current requirements, and whether my supplier is able to understand if I convey the customer requirement and modify his assembly line quickly. Okay, and how is the supply? And as I said, for the cycle market, now more transition is happening from the petrol or fuel vehicles to cycle. So again, two factors for that. One is the health consciousness, and the other side it is the rising petrol or fuel prices. The reason may be any. So how is that? How am I going to understand the demand and understand the customer requirements and how quickly my supplier is also reacting to the customer's requirement, whether that is happening or not. Then reviewing the cost and performance. So every time, for any function, every time I make some decisions, the cost is the foremost criteria which any organization would consider. So I need to review the cost and the performance. So cost factor is of course not necessarily that every time I make a product, the cost has to come down. It is not necessary because when I decide to make some product which is new for me, some raw material which is new for me, one thing is first I'm losing focus on my core activity. My uh, my idea, my focus, my revenue, my shared resources, everything is getting shared and split. So whether is it worth making it by myself or still continue to outsource it to somebody? Fine. So the cost is plays a very vital role. And then design and evaluate scenarios. Again, so what is the scenario themes like see here in this scenario I can give you so I may perceive what is going to be the model in cycle, so what are the changes that has to be brought in the cycle, as I said, new cycles with GPS. Okay, should I focus on that or should I go back and focus on manufacturing the tire which already one supplier is doing, but since I am not happy with the performance of the supplier, I may have to get into the production of tire too, which is going to be more sound, which is going to give me great results or outcome. Am I clear? Should I focus on model updates in my cycle, like new features of geared one or a GPS one or a Bluetooth one? Or should I focus on enhancing one specific component in that, that is the tire, which already has some suppliers for that? In which area should I focus now? Any comment, any suggestions from you? Which is a core activity, which is a non-value adding activity? If you are in that position, what will you do? See, because the design and scenario evaluation comes with creativity. So what if my customer will not be bothered whether I'm manufacturing cycle or buying the manufacturing tire or buying the tire from somebody else, or I have outsourced the tire or insourced the tire. For him, the end rollout, that is a finished product, the cycle is the outcome. Okay. Yeah, Sainti, Shadhan, we have some more time, 15 more minutes. Anybody would like to comment on that? No idea? Okay, I can't say that I would not focus on tire. My focus would be just on the cycle end design and rollout only. But that differs from case to case basis, scenario to scenario basis. And finally, keeping that in mind, I have to develop my execution plan. How am I going to execute that? Whether I'm making that, whether I have decided my mind to make the product or buy the product. I'll give you again a scenario, so which will tell you again. See, when we buy or make, again, quality shouldn't be a compromise. If suppose I have decided that I am going to buy the product, fine, I can buy from somebody else. So what is that I have to consider? Quality. Whether by making it by myself, the quality is going to be high, or should I going to compromise if I am going to buy from somebody else? Okay, quality always matters. A recent article in day before yesterday's Times of India was saying that Okinawa to recall 3,000 e-scooters. So why? Because it got fired. So now often we hear this news in media that here and there some accidents are happening due to fire in electric vehicles. So they are going to call back. They are recalling the 3,000 e-scooters. So maybe they may look upon what has to be done with the batteries and all that they can. They will modify. Here, what is the problem here? Is it the problem with the vehicle, or is it the problem with the quality of the components supplied by the suppliers? Which one do you think? Which is a major problem here? Okay, quality of quality is a problem, right? But is it the quality of the entire vehicle, that is the e-bike, or the quality? So first we need to understand what is the cost for this fire, whether is it the battery or something else. If it's a battery, so from whom is that being procured? Because otherwise the speed, the mileage, everything would have been fine with that e-vehicle. Fine. So one needs to understand what is the quality of that component which is causing, yes, right, Snehal, it is component. So what is the quality of that component which is causing accident? Fine. And from whom I have procured? Who's the supplier? So immediately, because it is ultimately the brand image of the e-scooter itself which is getting spoiled. So one has to be very careful. It is not the see anybody wanted to give a quality product, but that has to come with a cost. So here, being the manufacturer of the e-vehicle, it is his responsibility, and what he has done is right. So recalling the vehicle, ensuring the quality is being updated, so that the customers, without any fear in mind, they go in for buying the. Okay, okay. So I think feedback sheet is being rolled out. Yes, you can do that side by side. So I'll continue with my session. Otherwise, time is very less. Okay, so that has to be decided by one on without compromising quality, or identifying what is going to be the quality of the component and which is going to be high, whether when you make the component or buy the component. Okay. Okay, this is one small scenario I wanted you all to go through, and which will help you out in making a decision on make or buy. So assume a company is deciding between manufacturing a part in-house that costs $26 per unit, including direct cost, fixed overheads, and variable overheads as given in the table. So a component being manufactured, so direct cost for manufacturing that is $15, and overhead is 4, and variable overhead is 7. So total cost for manufacturing that product is 26. but the same part is available in the market for $23 per unit, including the cost of buying, shipping, and warehousing as shown in the table below. See here, when you buy the product, it is costing you the cost of the product as well as the shipping and warehouse cost. It is costing you $23. Okay, so when you make the part, it is going to cost you $26, and when you buy the part, it is going to cost you $23. So what would you do now? Buy? Yes. Okay, you would buy. Okay, Sudarshan, yes, says he buys. Okay, but see, here we have insufficient data and duration. Very good. Yes, Anushri, you are right. Because, see, you cannot just come to a consensus just seeing the total cost here, because what we are overlooking here is the fixed overhead that is being shared here. Okay, I'll tell you. Now you will change your decision. See, if the surplus capacity available will remain idle, if the component is bought, out-of-pocket expenses will be 23 per unit, that is $1 more than variable cost and direct cost of making the component, which is $22. Going back, you will understand better now. See, here it is a fixed overhead. Fixed cost, maybe the capital expenses for your land or the facility, the rent you are paying for that. See, you have space. Okay, so that is a fixed expenses. That is not only for making this product, and that is a shared expenses which has to be accounted for making other products also. So here, excluding that, if you see, direct cost of using manufacturing that product is $15 plus $7, which will give you $22 total cost. But if the capacity is utilized by other products as well, right? That is what they are saying. So in that case, okay, buying the product will be $1 more than making that product. This 4 is not only pertaining to that product, because that is a idle capacity. The space is idle for you. So if you are utilizing that space, then it is better, because that's a shared expense. It is better you go and make the product, that is manufacture the product, because that is $1 less. So it is economical to make it only if the idle capacity is used by other production scenarios also. But however, if the firm is utilizing or can utilize the capacity in making some other product which contributes to say $4 per unit in profits, the effective cost of buying the component will be $19. So that is 23 less 4, the contribution from other products is $19. Okay, fine. So 23, here it is said that same part is available in the market for 23 rupees. So here it is again, it is utilizing or can utilize the capacity in making some other product. So it is even more less, it will be $19 only, and the contribution from that is it is a shared contribution of other product. So in that case, it would be economical to buy the component at 23 units per unit, because here if that $4 is kept idle, you are going to use only for this production, then that takes the product to more amount, but buying the product is going to cost you only $23. So here you can get it more clear. See here, cost of making the product when you make it is $22, and per unit cost whether you buy and leave capacity idle. When the capacity is left idle, it is $23, and you buy and use the capacity for other products also, it is $23. So here it is opportunity cost. Okay, you are buying from outside and you are using the capacity for other products which is fetching you more income. Okay, contribution from other products, if it is nil, you can make, and still the relevant cost is 22, and per unit cost of buying the product and leaving the idle capacity, you don't have anything contribution from other product. But if you are utilizing the idle capacity to make some other product, that is the $4 is getting shared. So deduct that $4, you will get net relevant cost as 19. So these are the three scenarios. You make the product, you are going to incur $22. You per unit cost, you buy and leave the capacity idle, you incur $23, and buy and use the capacity for other products, you incur $19. So now tell me, which one would you do? You will buy and use the existing capacity for other dollars where you are getting more revenue and income, because that $4 is getting deducted since you are doing some other product which is value adding to your final product. Okay, so the scenario changes. So it all, the make and buy decision always comes not only with the cost but also the fixed expenses, the fixed overheads, how we are splitting that and utilizing that. So if it is shared with other products, it is of course, and based on that the decision will be taken by you. Okay, now yes sir. Yes, now Sudarshan and Kavita, would you agree? It may change. The decision may change given proper data and the scenario. So it changes from time to time, and how we are using. Tell us about the TE exam pattern. There is a lot of content on the. Okay, I'm reading the first message now. Sorry. Okay. Uh, Please walk us through the term and the exam patterns in tomorrow's syllabus since the course is quite vast. Yeah, tomorrow positively, Tanvi, I will take you through the term and examination, how to attempt it. I will give you some model questions also, which will help you out. See, do not worry about the theory part at all, because I'm repeating it. No straight questions or definitions will be asked. Everything is going to be application based. Okay, rough understanding of all the concepts if you have, and putting the concepts how you are going to use them in real time scenario is what will be asked. Okay, total landed cost is the final cost, Kavita, that will make give you an understanding or let you make the decision, take the decision of whether to make or buy. So that is the total landed cost, the final cost, what you're going to incur when you buy the product or make the product. Okay, so that is the total landed cost. Okay, since we are talking more on the cost, it is also this we have to remember the total cost of ownership. Every business for that matter will try to understand what is the total cost they are incurring. Fine. And this total cost will cover your acquisition cost, your ownership cost. So you are possessing, you are storing some raw material, so you own that and you have to spend some storage cost for that. So that is the ownership cost. So when we talk about the acquisition cost, that is the price, purchase price of the raw material or the component. And the ownership cost is how and the process that you are making to convert that into a finished product. And the post ownership cost is nothing but the disposal cost, how you are going to dispose the waste, the e-waste. So now there are a lot of e-waste concepts that is coming up, right? So that is what, if you are a furniture manufacturer, fine, you are making wooden furnitures and all that. So once you are going for acquisition, that is you are purchasing wood to make your furniture. So that is the acquisition cost. And you are holding, you are having the wood and you have other glue and other items, the glass and other items. Also you buy to make the furniture and you have them, holding them, that is the ownership cost. And the processes involved, the cost involved in the conversion process of this wood to a finished product, whether it's a sofa or a cot or whatever it is, that is the ownership cost. And finally, the left out wood dust or any other wooden items, or left out wood or wood dust and all that, how you are going to dispose that. Okay, this is more prevalent as far as the construction sector is taken, because more wastage, more disposable items will be there once the construction is finished. So everything put together only is the total cost of ownership. It is not only the cost of the end product you are rolling out. So that is why, see, the car, if you go and buy a 10 lakh worth rupees car, so the actual value of the car is not 10 lakh rupee, but the visible cost, you can just, the engine or the steel or the chassis or the brake only is visible for you. But what will happen to the ownership cost, the acquisition cost, and all that, the labor, the wages they have to pay, the system they have to use, the technology they have to use, the data they have to use. So, who will account for all these costs? So, that is everything included is the total cost of ownership. Okay. So, that put together will give you an idea on what is the total cost of ownership you have. And only if you have an idea on the total cost of ownership, that is the possession of goods. So, what is the value of the cost, value of the item, or the cost of the item you are holding? Only then it is better for you to land up in a decision whether or not to hold the item. Okay, a small scenario here. So we all know Maserati cars. So they are they are in the segment of luxury sedans. And yes, of course, we don't have much dealers in India. So we have one in Bangalore and one in, I think, Mumbai. Bangalore, I'm sure enough because I have seen. Okay. So if I'm making up my mind to buy a Maserati car, anybody? Chennai, yes, of course, all the way I have to go to Bangalore. The dealer is there only in Bangalore. So nobody else, which is 350 kilometers away from Chennai. Okay. So the cost of the car, yes, of course, it starts from 1.35 crores. And no showroom in Chennai. Nearest one is Bangalore, which is 350 kilometers away from me. Okay. So, but then that it's a brand. So that's my preference to buy this car. Okay. So is it worth buying? So because here not only the brand. So since there is no dealer located in Chennai, for small repairs or any maintenance or anything to be changed, any upgradation, I have to travel all the way to Bangalore, which is 350 kilometers away. Even for a service part, or any service has to be done, any other changes or anything related to that, I have to do. I have to find the dealer from whom I have bought, and all the way I have to travel. Okay, and anything else, any other difficulty? If I'm buying the Maserati car where I have no dealers in Chennai, any other difficulty you perceive? Do you foresee? Okay, and these high-end luxury sedans usually have nobody else, no other mechanic can just even touch or understand the systems in the car, because everything is automated and all that. Any part that is, even if you are touching, so automatically that will be upgraded in the system. So next time when you go for service, he will the dealer will ask you what have you done, whether you have opened, you have handled some parts or that, like that. So it's so very costly in terms of maintenance and services also. So having all this mind, is it still the total cost of, imagine the total cost of ownership, not only buying the car. So I am using the services part, the mileage part, the other things. See, first of all, when I'm making up my mind to buy a luxury sedan, yes, of course, the affordability factor will be there. But beyond that, why a Maserati where I don't have a dealer also there? So instead, why not to go for a BMW or Merc or even a Lexus? So where if I don't want to equate Maserati with BMW or Merc, so why not a Lexus? So not specific to this case. Again, I'm just conveying that the total cost of ownership is not only lying with the acquisition or purchases we are doing with the product. It also travels through us, across us, like how we are not only the acquisition but also the ownership cost and how the end product rolls out or the end results come out. So everything put together. So here calculating each at for owning a Maserati car for each and every level, I need to incur a lot of expenses and all. That's only thing. The pleasure it gives me is the brand what I own. So what if any alternative is found out or identified for that? Because that is where the total cost of ownership comes handy in taking business decisions as well. So whether it is worth buying or whether it is worth switching over to another brand. Okay. So once we talk about the total cost of ownership on making or buying the product, so all these factors also has to be considered and have been considered by organizations. So we were discussing again on make or buy. So buying, of course, goes easy. Identification of suppliers. I'm just buying the product from them with the specification what I'm mentioning to them. So if I'm deciding to make a product, so a lot of other concepts. Like already I'm into production of the finished products, wherein I'm compelled to adhere all the lean principles and all that. So how again lean and Six Sigma is the methodology. One methodology which is spoken predominantly by organizations worldwide. So earlier, when Toyota introduced this concept, they came into business with all these concepts. So the entire world was looking up with all the principles and the resultant outcome what they were able to produce and show. So once I make some product, so I also have to bother more about the lean principles and the Six Sigma. So lean, you all might have heard that how creating value for customers by eliminating the waste. So minimum waste, maximum efficiency. So lean is totally eradicating the waste. And Six Sigma is how I'm removing the errors. How careful am I in operating or continuing the process so that my errors are removed from my functioning and the processes. So, like when you are in a like Britannia biscuits manufacturing, fine, they are into manufacturing, and if you had happened to visit their facility location, the production facility, so every place there will be a Six Sigma that is a process that is happening, and when the final product rolls out with the pack of business and all that, automatically the machine will identify if it is of less. If a biscuit packet has to have 100 grams of biscuit, so if the weight of the biscuit is some 2 or 3 grams less, automatically the scanner identifies and throws the pack down. So that is again the process, because the efficiency process, that is the Six Sigma, has to be indulged and dwindled in the process of your assembly line itself. Otherwise, it is not a separate process like you appoint someone and weigh the weight of each and every business biscuit packets and throw whichever is more or whichever is less. So the practices of lean and Six Sigma has to be imbibed in the business itself. How, again, going back to Apple, how does Apple does this Six Sigma? Fine. Okay. So we call it as DMAIC improvement process. It is like defining. So how Apple by with the voice of the customer. See, Apple always understands and give importance for the customer feedback and values. Any new range or model rolled out, maybe in every September they roll out a new model. So when it is rolled out, immediately they go in and identify or ask for customer feedback. So what could be the expectation and what could be the futuristic developments they wanted to have in their iPhones. So the customer perspective and the voice of customer is very important in uh, Apple, as far as Apple is concerned. And uh, and once they know the customer requirement, it is very easy for them to go back to their assembly line and modify that. So maybe the size of the Apple iPhone. So earlier, if we go back to the initial 3G model or 5S or 5E model, the size of the Apple iPhone used to be very handy, and that was the design Steve Jobs suggested. See, if he would have been alive now, he wouldn't have agreed or allowed for a bigger size, because the ideology what he conceptualized Apple design was, you have to hold it in your hand, and every finger should have accessibility to the corners of the four corners of the mobile. Fine. So that was the ideology based on which the Apple size of Apple iPhone was designed. But later, due to the stiff competition from other players like Samsung and all that, and the again customer responses saying that the font is very small, since the size of the mobile phone is very small, they had to go for upgrading or changing the size of the Apple iPhone. Fine. So how this was possible for them is to implement or redefine their assembly line is by taking the customer responses. Because only if they understand the customer requirements, because overnight the production or the facility cannot be changed. That too, changing the size of a mobile phone, it takes lot of processes and the activities, manufacturing activities that has to go inside. So that was the methodology followed by Apple, so that they go back, they modify their assembly line and implement all the changes into it. So once they identify or understand that there is going to be a small size change in the gadget what they are producing, so they also have to eliminate the NVA activities. That is a non-value added activities. So in this case, when they have they wanted to do the change in the size of the mobile. So what could be the non-value added activities then? Like going for a case or identifying a different colored case for your Apple mobile phone. So maybe, for example, I'm stating the non-value added activities can be anything. So as a mobile phone manufacturer, so you have heard the voice of the customer and they are keen on certain specification of your mobile phone. So other things you can give us a value added features or activities, but then ultimately you also have to identify the non-value added activities like what Apple has done by understanding, like earlier. Now again Apple has come with eSIM. Otherwise the dual SIM, the dual port and all that, so they never had that as an ideology. And working on that to induce one more SIM slot was considered as a non-value added activity by Apple. Otherwise, because they thought this is a unique feature of theirs and they don't want to replicate by any other, from any other mobile. Okay. And again, the Cano analysis, what they did is nothing but the making data available for customer, like the location, the weather, the local traffic and all that. See, now everything has come, the Safari being the browser of iPhone. So earlier when they launched, they had everything inbuilt with the customer location, weather, local traffic and all that. So now Google has come with all the specification and all. But when they wanted to know about their customer expectation and all that, so this is what they have identified, understood that this is the expectation of the customer wanted more uh, uh, directions on the location, the weather updates and all that. So those things were included in the processes. So identifying what is the requirement. So this is what Apple has done. So this strategy may be completely different for each and every manufacturer. Maybe an automobile manufacturer, the strategy might be completely different. But if they wanted to hear the voice of the customer, they could customers could feel that yes, the fuel efficient cars and the high end, or else maybe the upholstery with better access and better with accessories, more accessories which can be fit in the along with the upholstery. If that is the voice of the customer for automobile manufacturer, then accordingly the streamlining will be done by the manufacturer. And this Apple's case, they have done this. Okay, and finally going on to yes. So once this Lean and Six Sigma principles are used by any organization. So, identifying, minimizing waste, and removing errors. So, to a greater extent, when you are imbibing these practices into the processes, that itself is going to give a resultant outcome. Okay, and along with that, one more step also is done by these organizations is to understand the theory of constraints. So taking the example of the same Apple example in the from the previous slide. So here Apple hears to the voice of the customers and all these things. From internally, company also might have identified that these are all the constraints for me to change the size of the mobile phone. Fine. So that may be different constraints. So any company to proceed further technologically when it wanted to upgrade or update itself, firstly it has to identify the constraints attached with each and every process. The constraints may be anything. It may be a policy constraint where a lot of manual and duplicative works has to be created. It may be internal constraints. See, changing the size of the mobile, yes, that will not require many skills on the team members side. But then going back to the cycle manufacturers example, If I'm telling, or if I want to take in some GPS facility in my cycle, then that requires specific skills because that they come as a technology partner. Maybe I want to start an online course online on an online platform. Content wise, yes, I may be a person who can train someone. But the technology, the platform, who is going to give? So I may have to go and seek the help of somebody else, technology provider who is very sound in that area. So that also is a constraint because internally, if I feel that completely I have to do that, so I may not be having skilled manpower to perform the activity. So that is one of the internal constraints. Then the market constraint, yes, how the market is going to react, whether the cycle what I'm going to roll out with the GPS technology, will it be accepted by the market? So will the sales happen? Because this is a new one. And how far is it going to be useful? I might have done this after forecasting or how the sales is going to happen. But still, that may not be always correct, the forecaster. So I also need to understand the market constraint, how the acceptability of my product is going to be. And the resource content, yes, what resources, whether I have the resources, whether the tools, the required tools do I have, whether I'm going to make it or buy it. Fine, sometimes it will be better for me to buy it because I have to share my existing resources. So again, resources constraint will be there based on which I have to make a plan. Financial constraint, of course, will be there for any product. You may plan something, and you may have a budget, maybe the recently released KGF Chapter 2 movie. So earlier they had a budget of 50% of what they have spent now. Fine. So that's always a financial constraint. So you plan one, and finally you end up because with mounting costs. Because once when a movie is taken in some months, yes, of course, there much variation in cost will not be there. But imagine if a movie is taken for 2, 3 years, 4 years. Bahubali 2 also the same thing happened. So more the project duration, you will have more financial constraint because the anticipated cost for fulfilling the project some 4 5 years back will be completely different. The same happens to the uh, what is that highway projects, national highway projects. So they give a figure, they anticipate for metro trains. They anticipate a figure and give the budgeting specifications, but it changes over a period of time. So that is the financial constraint and the cultural constraint as well. So all these theory of constraints will always be there in any business. So why, for example, just take the example of LIC IPO. This has been into discussion for past 6 months. But then why they are not launching the IPO? So why LIC like IPO? Because we go back, LIC IPO was into this for quite some years, but then when they decided to launch the IPO, it was happening from last November. So from then onwards, October, November. Then after when Paytm shares were launched and they did miserably bad, again they had to postpone the IPO release, and then followed by the Ukraine war and any other thing. So what is that you feel could be a cause for releasing the IPO? What constraint is stopping LIC from releasing the IPO on a planned date? Why it has been getting postponed? Any idea? This is just for a discussion point of view. I'm asking you your opinion. Is it because of only the Ukraine war? These are all my ideas which I wanted to put forth. So you can complement this or supplement this also. So is it the valuation very tough task? Because as an insurance service provider, more than 90% of the market share is held by this insurance company. But other players we have, earlier we had only this player, but now other private players are plunging into the market. So is valuation too very complex? Because whether is the investor not interested? So what could be the reason for delayed issue of IPO from LIC? No idea? Anything? Any other point apart from what I have mentioned? Would you like to comment? Okay. No idea on LIC IPO delay. But ultimately, the message is this. See, any company for that matter also need to identify the constraints. So what is going to be the blocks, obstacles for them to uh, uh, continue the processes whatever they are going through in their supply chain. So here if constraint comes with a sound message on that, you just have to identify the constraint and you have to tackle the constraint, whether it is possible for you to exploit the constraint or step aside the constraint. So in this case of LIC, what is the constraint? Whether it is a market volatility, yes, in that case they need to wait for some time because that is not in our hands. But is it something else like valuation a complex task? Yes, then the valuation has to be done by the expert advice and involving a team of members, those who are very sound in doing that, and make the investors clear that how they have ended up in this valuation. And they have to subordinate every other decision to that of the constraint. So alternatives, coming with alternatives, and they alleviate the system constraints. So I identify that first, and you need to explore all the possibilities how to alleviate the constraint. And if the custom that specific constraint is broken, then identify another constraint and go back to the first step again. Identify again system constraint, exploit constraints. So if you feel that there is no constraint for the process to happen, then you can go ahead with the functions of supply chain. So that's what every company, whether it is Dell or Zara or whether it is Apple, they always do that because voice of the customer when they hear, so customer may give lot of suggestions. They wanted the size to change, they wanted the mobile with two SIM slots, they want this, that and all that. But what is possible to increase the size of the mobile phone? What is the constraint that Apple is going to face? And whether it is possible for Apple to exploit that constraint, to weed out that constraint and make a progress in their process. So that has to be understood by any organization and then proceed with the further processes. Okay. So with this, we are completing the third session. So to sum up, we have covered on first starting with, we just we just sailed through the sales and operations planning, and then that we saw on how how Apple is how Apple supply chain is happening with the sourcing and other manufacturing functions, and a bit of Flipkart's function. So though the activity, supply chain activities is carried out by a production unit as well as the e-commerce platform, but what is the difference in their function and which function is not carried out by any of these partners? So we saw that, and we just proceeded with the sourcing function, and then start from there to uh, manufacturing function, and finally we concluded with the sourcing process and make or buy decision, whether to make or buy, and what would be the total cost of ownership when we do a process or when we make a process, when we buy a component, or what is the resultant outcome that we are going to get. Okay, so that was, with that we completed. So tomorrow, being the last session, the last live session in this program for this subject, so I'll be covering, as you all asked, we will be discussing on the term and examination. I will also be sharing few demo questions with you, which will be helpful for you. Okay, Sami. And again, after this, we have the rest of the portion parts to be completed is about logistics and distribution, in which we'll be handling about the inventory as well. Inventory, logistics and distribution, and a portion of transportation will be covered. So with cases and example. Okay, so time is, yes, it's too much of time. Yeah, thank you for the patient. Thank you for a longer duration of session, and hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye bye. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone, for joining.